everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will get started here in about 30-ish or so seconds at the top of the hour to let everybody come in and get settled. Thank you so much. All right, y'all, we'll go on ahead and we will get started here while everybody's here and settled. So hello, everyone. We will go on ahead and do all that. And so I just wanted to let you know that we've got Q&A from our moderators today, Zainab Kazemi and Ahmad Raza Usmani, in order to answer your questions, collect your questions, please have them. It's always so exciting to hear from our members. And I also want to remind you all that we have real-time captioning available for today's session. In order to use this feature, just choose the closed caption or live transcript option in your Zoom toolbar. With that, thank you again for joining us, and I'm going to pass it on to our moderators to get started. Zainab and Ahmad?
So hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you again for joining us today for part 2 of webinar series hosted by OAPG. We had a really nice conversation in our first webinar about how different disciplines contribute to the field of occupational ergonomics. We hosted a group of panelists from academia, industry, and healthcare system. And today we're turning our focus to the world of academia, and specifically how it looks like to transition from students to professor in the field of occupational ergonomics. So we're so excited to have a great group of panelists here today, from like early career to mid-career faculty members and also participants, whether you're a student considering an academic path, an early career professional, or simply curious about like pursuing academia in the field of occupational ergonomics. So before we get started, just a quick reminder to drop your questions in the Q&A box. We'll do our best to cover as many as possible. And let's begin with an introduction from our panelists. So who wants to go first?
I can go. Hi, I'm Erica Pliner. For my background, I have mechanical engineering degrees, a bachelor's and a master's from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I got my PhD in bioengineering from the University of Pittsburgh, and then I also completed postdocs in physiology and neuromechanics from Neuroscience Research Australia and then the University of Florida. My research focuses on acute accidents. I'm interested in stopping accidents that lead to either fatal or very severe accidents. So I work on things like fall prevention and also struck by accidents or perceiving hazards. So I apply methods of whole body movement with biomechanics, but then also mobile brain imaging with electroencephalogram or EEG.
Thank you. I pass it over to Dr. Fatima Dawoodi.
Thank you, Zainab. So I'm Fatima Dawoodi, and I'm an associate professor of mechanical engineering in Santa Clara University. So my background is in pure mathematics, and then I continued to engineering sciences. And for my PhD, I did industrial technology and manufacturing systems, and also a minor in statistics. So I'm like very analytical driven type of industrial systems trained. And my research area is basically on occupational ergonomics, and I'm interested in both physical and neuroergonomics. And all my research is basically toward creating human-centric smart manufacturing. So my work is centered around using machine learning, AI, and collaborative technology and assistive technology and wearable sensors in order to create systems that are smart yet very human-centered.
Thank you. And then we've got Dr. Oshin Tyagi.
Hi, I'm Ocean. So I got my master's and my PhD from Texas A&M University in the Industrial and Systems Engineering department. My PhD was focused in health and human systems engineering, specifically in human factors and ergonomics, obviously. Then I'm currently an assistant professor in the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and some of the research areas in which I work in are related to occupational ergonomics in healthcare, neuroergonomics, as well as understanding the concepts of stress, fatigue, and neuromuscular elements related to these particular factors. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Hanjun Park.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Hanjun Park, and I recently completed a PhD at Virginia Tech in Industrial and Systems Engineering. Well, just a month ago, actually, so I'm still pretty fresh. And I joined the assistant professor in Texas Tech, Industrial Systems and Manufacturing Engineering. And before doing my PhD, I earned my master's from Seoul National University and my bachelor's from Georgia Tech, all in industrial engineering. And my research during my PhD focused on how people adapt to different occupational exoskeletons, particularly from the perspectives of motor control, biomechanics, and physical ergonomics. And I'm trying to expand my work for identifying individual traits for predicting the rate of motor rotation to these exoskeletons, and also for other emerging technologies such as AI-based worker prevention systems and smart manufacturing. And thank you.
Thank you, An. So I think we can start with like a very general and broad question, which is not about your current position. It's about when you were deciding your own career direction. What factors influenced your decision to enter academia and not the industry? So who wants to give us a shot?
I guess I can begin. Before going into my master's, I already had some experience working for industry. So I had a taste of what it would be like working for industry. Fair to say, I did not have a great experience. So I obviously was questioning and considering my options throughout my master's and a little bit towards my PhD as well. However, I focused in on what my interests and my strengths are, and I realized that my interests and strengths are very well suited for a career in academia. I also realized that I love research, but I also loved other components of this job, which generally are not, maybe valued as much as they should be, which is the mentoring of the younger students, teaching, so on and so forth. So that's why I realized that academia would be a good profession for me, even though obviously industry also has a lot of great opportunities for PhDs.
Thank you, Oshin.
I can go next. So yeah, I guess academia wasn't even really on my radar when I was an undergrad, but I fell into undergraduate research. I was planning on going into industry and just finishing at my bachelor's. But then after being involved with the research process, I really just kind of fell in love with it and the idea of being able to go into the world, find a problem, and then trying to find a reason to why that problem exists and creating a solution to fix it. And so I loved that whole process. So I went to get a PhD so that I could lead these projects. And I chose academia, I guess, over industry, as you just have more control and the direction you're going to take. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I can go next. So, similar to Oshin and Erica, I think I decided to pursue academia relatively late in my career. So during my bachelor's, I was majored in general ISC. So I learned a lot of different things around operations research, supply chain, management science. I enjoyed learning that, but didn't really have a clear understanding of how these pieces came together in like practical implications. And when I was doing my master's, my advisor introduced me to ergonomics, and then I was intrigued by how these different ISC principles could come together in solving practical problems around our living settings. It was very inspiring to me. And even after that, I wasn't fully committed to academia. So after my master's, I worked as a startup company for about 3 years as a software engineer. And then I learned a lot, but then I also learned that my personality and then my perspective on industry life was not very optimal. And then I was a type of person who enjoys academic freedom compared to doing a good job on things I was told to do. So I also liked doing many different things simultaneously, like doing research, mentoring students, teaching, also which I have to keep learn myself, and then doing different services and setting up the lab like a small startup companies. So those things I found my passion in those areas. So that actually made me to pursue career in academia.
Thank you, Anjun.
Yeah, I can just I agree with a lot of points, and basically that was my reason too. On top of that, I think I believe academia gave me like the intellectual freedom opportunity, and also working on long-term research compared to industry, which is usually short-term, and then there are different deliverable. So I really appreciate that when I was choosing between industry and academia. And also mentoring the students and working with the students, I think that is very rewarding. So these were like the most motivations for me to join academia.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you all. So I think we can talk a little bit about like how to get the job. And I personally, I think networking is really important in building like an academic career. But sometimes this networking looks a bit scary or uncomfortable for students, or even sometimes it looks a bit awkward. What are like some easy and practical ways that students can start building connections with people in the field of occupational ergonomics?
I guess some advice on that. I think with networking, you need to be strategic about it. So if you're at a conference, don't just go up to talk to everybody to be like, I'm networking. Kind of have a strategy or game plan of like, who do you want to network with? Why do you want to network with them? Like, what type of information or what value are you hoping to obtain out of that conversation? So make sure you're networking with purpose and not just with a bunch of random people that you meet at a conference. It's good to again like meet. That's some of those are good connections though, just by luck and chance that you end up talking to somebody. Those are more natural connections to make. And but if you're trying to be strategic on who you talk to, you can try to foster those more natural connections. So an underrated place to talk to somebody is the food line. So again, maybe they're already talking to somebody else, but if you really want to talk to somebody, maybe get behind them in the food line, and now you're stuck standing next to them for a few minutes, and you can maybe pick their brain a bit. Yeah.
Thank you, Rika.
Another method that you can use, especially in conferences, is that no matter what kind of academic they are, whether they are an extrovert or an introvert, they will always love to talk about research. So attend the talks that the people that you want to network with are giving, and then strike up meaningful conversations about the talks, the work that they're doing, and also invite them to your presentations if there are any presentations that you're doing. So talking about research, talking about the work that you're doing and the work that they are doing is a very good way for you to engage with them in a way that they understand, the scope and the breadth of the work that you're doing. At the same time, you also understand the type of work they are doing.
Thank you, Oshin.
Yeah, I can add to that as well. So I think at some point when you're clear about what is the specific path you want to follow, maybe it's really working if you have some targeted events to attend. So we have a lot of conferences, and then also within each conference there are a lot of different opportunities. So it's a great idea if you could find your group of interest, that the expertise you really care about, and then that way you can have some start building your own network. Talk to people so they know they can put a face to a name, and then add them on LinkedIn. If you need any advice, it should be again very strategic, as Erica was putting that. So you should be able to build your connection like one by one. But I really prefer to have a network of people that I somehow had an interaction with, and they also had an interaction with me, and that's how I could got my first actually that's how I could get my PhD scholarship and admission. It was through attending conferences, talking to different professors in the field, and that's the same thing I did when I was looking for academic jobs. And you could just go and apply, but then for me it was more going to the conference and talking to those people that I knew are in the field and they are looking to hire. So it takes a lot of energy. You cannot get response from everyone, but the minimum is that you have a group of people that are very relevant and they are expert in their field. So they could give you some kind of help in long term.
Thank you, Fatima.
Another thing I would like to add is a very great way to network is to do service. So there are so many HFES related and other professional society related activities, groups, etc., and positions that you can apply for. And whenever you are in a leadership position or a position in an organizational capacity, you will very naturally be in touch with the prominent leaders related to the work that you're doing. And that is also a great way for you to showcase your service towards the society and on the university level, on other different levels. And the engagement with others and networks becomes a very natural part of that process.
Awesome, thank you. So I have a question about the application materials that you prepare. So it's like a crucial step to prepare those documents like CV, cover letter, research, and teaching statements. So what's your advice for students when they are preparing those documents to make them stronger and stand out? For this one, maybe we can start with Hanjun. You just start your job. So yeah.
Okay, so I guess I mean this is very typical advice, but my biggest advice would be to start early. Think early in your career if you're interested in applying for academia. I personally started quite late due to doing other things, and I think I started like late September, mid-October, but so that's why it kind of made the process a bit stressful and rushed. But even so, I advise that even you're not on the market yet, begin drafting your research statement early. I think can definitely help. And so I think really knowing your research background and then rationale for your doing the specific research goals, and also like envisioning what you can do in the near future will also take a lot of requires a lot of iterations. Personally, that was difficulties on my side, like thinking about the future specific future research goals, and then so getting feedback from peers or mentors could definitely make a big difference. And for the other application materials, so I try to be uh, make them both very clear and personal. Your CV should be obviously very complete and factual based, but the cover letter, research, teaching statements, I think it can be very where your story really comes through. So I try to think about some of my incorporate my personal episodes and challenges I faced during my PhD that could apply for each teaching statement and then research statement, and while as serving as an actual instructor of the class. And then that I think could make some unique aspects to making your statement stand out compared to others and more intriguing. So start early. I think I advise revise more as much as you can, and then tell your story clearly and make it personal. I think those are some of the advice I could give.
Thank you, Anjun. Any other thought?
Also, do not be tunnel visioned by what kind of departments you can apply to. So you might be someone from an industrial engineering department, but your work might fit to mechanical engineering or public health or any other department. So cast a wide net for sure when you are applying for these jobs.
Thank you.
I guess I'd like to comment on like the storytelling. That's really important, and I agree. So with making these like statements, everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different upbringing to how they got here and what their expertise are. And so you want to make it, everyone's unique, and you need to make sure you showcase that in your statements. Like, why should this university hire you? What makes you different? What makes you able to get funds that no one else can get? And so really showcasing that you're unique, you're individual, you're separate from your previous training advisors, and that you're going to be the best at getting XYZ funding because you have the best background to do it, or you have some technique that no one else has that you're going to apply to a certain field. So you really just need to come off as like kind of that bright, shiny new toy that everyone should want. And so you really got to sell it and then tie it all together. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I can also add to that. So I've served on many different hiring committees for professor, and then one thing that is usually hindering that further for you to get an interview or for the search to go successful for the person who is giving the interview is basically you are not clear about what contribution you can make to this school, right? And then that goes back to you to decide if you are interested in just R1 schools. Are you interested in less research focused institutes? Is your passion teaching? Maybe that is where you will shine. And then you need to basically tailor each and every document that you have for the mission and vision of that specific institute that you apply. This is really important, and you can just show that in one paragraph at the beginning of your cover letter because let's say that for a job you can get like 150 different applicants. So what makes those 3 top to be invited for on campus interview, right? So that is one thing that you should know the vision and the mission of the institute you're applying to, and then specifically show what is your independence, because all of us, we start with our PhD research, and usually it is under the advisor's umbrella. So you get involved in your advisor's research. But then the next step is that as an independent researcher, can you show that your future has a vision, and then you can work as a very independent and have your own research vision. And something that is happening now because of a lot of large language models, ChatGPT, generative AI that we have, is you can see a generic language in the application, which is not good. If you're showing that your teaching is effective, even when you were a TA during your PhD, you can still have some examples to support that, right? So when we say, let's make your application personal and shine as a person, it's just focus on what can differentiate you from others and what are your area of strengths, and then match them to the curriculum that specific university you're applying to have, right? So go and look at all the courses that they have in this department and say which specific courses you think you can contribute, and if something is not there, what is the novelty that you can add to that? So it takes a lot of time, but basically that also increase the chance of getting more interviews and making sure that you will have a more higher probability of success at the end.
Thank you, Fatima. And I think you already answered one of the questions by one of our participants, Leon, who asked about, I would like to know how you are deciding on your short-term and long-term research strategy to be an independent researcher. Even you just wrapped up your dissertation research. So questions for Hanju that you just started this job, but I think, yeah, Fatima, you also talked about how your research should be different from your supervisor, how your teaching strategy. So you should have a plan for that. Hanjin, do you have any insight for us on this question?
Okay, I'll try to answer. So as a short-term goal, I try to first expand some research that could be easily expanded from my dissertation work. So more like a low-hanging fruit compared to the long-term goal. And well, I'm still working on that, but yeah, that's how I approach. And the long-term goal, I try to think about really why I chose this path as an academic career and what I really wanted to accomplish at the end when I am like ready to retire or like a few years later, longer time after that. So, and which is I was interested in ergonomics because I wanted to help people like improve safety and overall like a worker performance in different sectors. But then to achieve that, my short-term goal will be something I could expand from my dissertation work. So something like adaptation to other emerging technologies, not just the exoskeletons, but there are many different technologies coming up rapidly recently because of the advancement of AIs and also changing in the workers' environment due to the advanced manufacturing systems and automations. So those things I try to focus, and yeah, something that I could easily see accomplished within the next few years. I think that's how I distinguish those two.
Thank you, Hanjin. Ocean, how about you? Do you have an insight about like the short-term and long-term strategies going forward?
So for the long-term strategy, I think one of my mentors when I just started my academia, profession, asked me is that what is it that you want to be known for down the line in the next 5 or 10 years, right? So understanding what is the theme of the work that you want to do for long term, I think is very important. For short or let's say relatively shorter term, I would say it's important to of course working on things that you would like to work on. So maybe some of it might be continuation of the work that you did during your PhD, and some of it might be new projects that you might be excited about. At the same time, I think we as a community should also need to focus on what is the future of our research, or what is the future of our human factors and ergonomics as a whole, or occupational ergonomics as a whole. Given how quickly the technology is changing, I think it's also important to understand and be able to predict the trends almost in a way of where we are heading, and what kind of problems we will potentially face or are beginning to face right now that are worth solving. So not just focusing on what you want to do, but also focusing on how it connects with the problems of today and tomorrow would also help answer questions of like what kind of research you should be doing right now.
Great, thank you. Any other?
I guess a comment on like kind of distinguishing yourself. So depending on your training again like makes you unique. So if you have a PhD, you get that expertise under that advisor. If you do a postdoc, you get that expertise under that advisor. And so having those two different skills helps make a new person, and that's you, and that's where you can bring something new. Now, if you just have a PhD and you're going into a faculty position, that can be a little challenging because you have like only one person that you trained under. That's why there's some grants out there called like K Awards. K Awards are training focused grants, and so it's funding you as an early stage faculty to also gain additional training. So like, what are you missing in your career that you might need to take your research to the next level? And so with me with kind of like making this new direction, pretty much the gaps in our research. So like look at your research. What are your limitations? Like why couldn't you address those questions? Those are gaps, and potentially new skill or additional training can help you answer those. And that makes you unique and special. So whether that's through a postdoc or through a K award as an early career faculty, that's kind of a way to help you guide your new direction or help you with your vision.
Thank you, Erika.
Erica, I just have a quick follow-up on something that you said earlier. So talking about having a little bit of different research profile than your advisor. Like if I look at it from the perspective of a doctoral student, most of the times they're being guided by their advisors who will in most cases would ask their students to work in a field where they're kind of an expert. So how do you actually maneuver around this theme of, having your unique research identity, which is not exactly the same as a professor?
Yeah, so when you're currently under that person, that can be a challenging conversation to have. But I do encourage you trying to have that with your advisor of how you can maybe gain additional skills outside of them, or work on something else that you're passionate about. I've had advisors that were very encouraging of not taking control of all of my time. And so they let me explore a little bit and to help me kind of find out where I want to go with my research in the world. Not all advisors are like that, but it might be a useful conversation to have with your own advisor. Yeah, I try to encourage my students to think of where they want to go and their careers, so then that we can help them get those additional skills. Because at the end of the day, like your advisor's limited in their scope and they're an academic. And so if you're like, I really want to go into industry instead, or I want to see if this is a path for me, they might have a harder time guiding you on industry because they don't have that much experience in it. I can say that for myself. I have zero industry experience, so I'm not going to be a great mentor to my students if that's where they want to go. But it starts with a conversation, and hopefully they are responsive to helping you get to where you want to go in your career.
I think
Thank you.
also to add on to really quick, also to add on to Erica's point, which is I 100% agree with, by the way, is that when you are coming directly from PhD, it's always a little bit harder because you have only just worked in one lab. So while you're doing your PhD, if your goal is to go directly into academia, it's a good idea to look out for internship opportunities or research opportunities in labs other than your own. Even if you're working with an excellent advisor, which I'm sure everyone is, um, it you gain a lot from working in an environment and in a field which is not exactly the same as what you've been working on for your 4 or 5 years of your PhD. And I have also seen a lot of new faculty do this, which I really like, where once they are, once they have gone through the interview process and they have been accepted, and then they have a conversation with the department and deferred their joining the department as a young faculty by a year. And then within that year, they go out to a different lab or a different, a different university to seek out an additional experience which helps them learn and increase their knowledge space in whatever they want to do. So seeking out opportunities outside of the lab you have been working with is extremely important if you want to diversify your skills, as well as do something which is uniquely what you want to do.
Thank you, Shin. Appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about the in-person and Zoom interview. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced, and is there anything that you wish you had known before, or you like were prepared for differently?
I guess I can start. So these interviews are intense. So Zoom is Zoom is one form, like usually that's the phone call interview. And the best way to get experience is doing them, so applying. Even if you apply to a university, maybe you don't plan to take the job offer at, but you would like practice. And so I was told your first interview, you don't want it to be your dream job. You want to practice with doing this because it is a very unique situation where at least for the in-person, like you're on the whole time that you're there. And it's kind of like what a conference is. However, you're interacting, you're having a lot of very meaningful short conversations with a lot of people. And when you're interacting with all these people, you'll learn really quickly that a lot of academics are like to talk about the research. Everyone's opinionated, but everyone also like acts differently. Like you'll go into rooms with people and they will dominate the conversation. You will go into rooms with people and it'll be like pulling teeth to get them to talk back to you. You'll get every personality in yeah, like 48 hours. And you need to be able to interact with everybody and leave everybody with a good impression. Because at the end of the day, like the whole faculty votes on if you're going to get hired. And if there is any concern or red flag, a faculty will bring it up, and that might shoot your shot at getting the job. So just being aware that you're interacting with a lot of people, and I think the best way to like do that is to experience that multiple times. So again, apply to multiple jobs, even jobs that you might not take at an academic institution, just to get that practice and working with all different personalities. Even Zoom interviews can be weird. I had one where like all the questions were like super traditional, super easy, could nail them all out of the park. One that was more like very theoretical, really hard to answer. And then one where only like one person asked the questions the whole time, but everybody was there and it just felt awkward. But like that's like academia. It's a bunch of different personalities, but yeah.
Thank you, Eva. Is it something common to ask like other faculties in the department to do an interview with you just to practice more?
So that's what I was going to mention. What really helped me, and I was hired much before the pandemic, so Zoom interview. I didn't have a Zoom interview at that time, but then I had mock interviews with my advisor, with my co-advisor, and also we had a very another faculty who was really helping a student. So, and he had very hard question that really helped me because when you're a student, talking about myself, you're very focused on your own area, publication, making sure that you can finish successfully. Then the last year comes with applying for the jobs. So there's a lot on your mind, right? And then you may not be able to prepare for every aspects of that. And then the guiding question from those mock interviews, they really helped me a lot. What I like about in-person interviews, if you get the opportunity, is that it could be very tiring because usually it's like 2 days and then you have back-to-back meetings with people. But that's where you can show that you're more than your resume, and then you can show your soft skills and how you're able to actually connect to that specific work environment that you're going to work in future. For Zoom, it is much harder because you're seated, people cannot really read your body language. It's you do not have all the opportunities of in person, but at the same time, I think if you have enough practice, as Erica was mentioning, you would be able to make a good impact. And that is very important because usually the in-person candidates are selected after the first or second round of Zoom interviews. So for me, what worked really well was those mock interviews. And also, I'm not sure if that opportunity exists, but we had like a specific group for in Iowa State University that they would work with PhD students. We had monthly meeting and they would go through a lot of practice about how you can apply, what you need to do. So that was a kind of professional training that you don't really get when you're a student. So I always appreciate that opportunity I had.
Thank you, Fatima.
Just to add on to Erica and Fatema's, so yeah, I personally felt doing the Zoom interview was more difficult for me compared to in person. I think a lot of it came to the fact that it was unfamiliar environment, and it's usually very short compared to in-person interviews. So I found it harder to project my enthusiasm or energy through the screen. And looking back, one thing I wish I had done differently for this Zoom interview was that maybe I could be more confident and clear on the research that I've been doing and then the future direction. But I felt much more comfortable when once I was in in-person interviews. And since these were very long and physically tiring schedules, I just tried to be who I am because I think at the end of the during the interview, you'll basically have to people will feel that, and I just try to be who I am. I try to be myself when I was like a student, having discussion with my advisors and fellow students, and I just try to enjoy the interview process once I was on the on site. And those research presentation was I was also familiar as many of students here will do practice that over the conferences and during the lab meetings. So yeah, so my advice would be prepared for the unfamiliar environment, especially for those Zoom interviews. But on the at once you get to the in-person, be physically prepared. And also, I advise you to be just show your be your, who you are really, and then be genuine and enjoy the conversation, I think, and then you'll have a good result.
Thank you. Thank you. So, my next question is about like other skills than like outside of research that you wish you had developed earlier. And it has been very valuable in your role as a professor, and how students can like start building those skills now so they have like a smoother transition to a professor. I think you already covered some of them, but if you just want to focus on one skill, what?
I can start with that again. For my specific case, I wish I had more grant writing skills because it took me a lot of revision and a lot of practice to get my first font. So, and I learned later in the process that it is how it should be done, right? So you don't get enough practice of that. So you may be great in writing papers and conducting research, but then writing the grant, especially if it is, for example, collaborative, then that's another challenge. And from the teaching perspective, because I had like this full RA position when I was doing my PhD, then and then I had some teaching experience, limited compared to the research experience. So the first year of when I was a professor, or even when I was interviewing for the job, teaching was a bigger challenge because you think of audience as people who know your work, and then that communication, how to make the complexity simpler. I think that is a very important skill that is overlooked, but that is very impactful for getting you into like a good communicator and a teacher. So that I think are the two things that I wish I had more, or I could have spent more on my skills when I was a student.
Thank you, Fatima.
So I personally, the one skill that I didn't focus on as much as I should have, was the grant writing part. Given that when you're doing a PhD, you're essentially focusing on doing research. You might also be mentoring some students. You might also be a TA or get some teaching experience. But the grant writing is something that you would have to push for. Either ask your advisor for opportunities or try to write independent student grants as much as possible, because that's a very important skill that you need to have in order to understand how to start navigating through the process of grant writing when you're a professor.
Guess one thing, if again, depending on where you're going, maybe no one feels prepared, but teaching. But so I kind of feel like you kind of just get thrown into the fire. But I did do a little bit of teaching workshops during my PhD, and it was all about aligning the assessments, the learning objectives, and the activities in class. And I almost every one of my classes, I think that was helpful, because I think about when I'm redesigning these courses, does everything match up? Because what's going to lead to students not doing well in your class is if you're testing them on something you didn't taught them or you didn't teach them. So you want to make sure that you're teaching them the things that align with the objectives, and that everything aligns. So potentially using other resources on teaching early in your career or when you start as a faculty. But then even just being self-aware that like certain skills I thought were pretty good for me coming in. And there's as a early stage investigator, there's some grants that you can apply to that only other early stage investigators that can apply to. But you also need to realize that when you are not applying to those grants, that you are in the big kids swimming pool now, and you're competing with people that have been doing this their whole life. And as a starting faculty, there's just a lot to catch up on. And so you might think you're good at something, but being humble and being ready to learn, because whatever you're doing, you can probably be doing it better. And there's people that have been doing it much longer than you have. So just being ready to learn, and just you're still developing as a new faculty member.
Thank you, Rika. So we've got a question from Dr. Sayantika from India, and she or he's curious to know what is the best way to find out about the postdoc opportunities in your institution, university. So do you have any suggestion? What is the best way they can
You could start with going into individual labs in those universities that are working in your field. So for example, their field seems to be biomechanics related and occupational health, and see if they have posted any advertisements. You will also find faculty who maybe don't have a website yet, like me, or just faculty who don't update their website a lot. So you can also directly email them and ask if there are any postdoc opportunities and if they are looking for a new hire. Also see if they have posted any advertisements on LinkedIn.
Thank you. So the next question is about after you get the job, for sure, new challenges and hurdles will come up. How was the reality different from what you expected? And not just about okay, you don't know, for example, how to write a grant, then you can go ahead and there. But what other things were different from from your initial expectations?
I think I can go on this. For me, the first shock was that you think you have one job, but basically you have three. You're a researcher, you're an administrator, you never expect that. And then you're a teacher, and you have to do everything at an excellent level. So I think for me, I was fooled by the fact that they say it's like 40% research, 40% teaching, 20% service, while it's 100% research, 200% teaching. And I think everybody here have the same kind of experience. So it's just like you're juggling three balls at the same time, and if you're not good at that, one of them falls. So that goes hand in hand with the time management that comes after. Of course, you will learn, but there is a learning curve to that. And I think the first year again is like the hardest. So what could really help was having mentors. And then I think having mentors like peer mentors and then some senior mentors, that is great, because the peer mentor can help you navigate the water that you are sailing in, and then the senior mentor could give you the big picture. And depending on what type of mentor you choose, then you can just probably make some constructive changes to your career path. Maybe you don't want to stay in that institute forever, and maybe you want to just redirect your research or focus. So that is the first thing that the reality was for me. And also, I still cannot say that I'm good at time management. I'm much, much better. And this is my probably seventh year at job, but still there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with this job. So and I'm sure you've heard the joke that they said in faculty, as a faculty, you have flexible time. You choose which 70-hour a week you want to work. And I think that 70 hours is just like the minimum you need to get things done. So time management comes with that, and balance, have the balance between family time and work time. These are really easy to talk about, but very hard in practice. So these are some of the challenges that were there, but I cannot appreciate the flexibility of this job enough, and also the opportunity that you get for exploration. And then there is a lot of flexibility that comes with it as well that I appreciate. So I think these are the challenges that for me, but then the solution is apart from your personal skills and professional development, having those mentors really help. And I have had, and I still have mentors at different levels, because I thought that would be like a great way of handling things. So you know that you're not by yourself.
Thank you, Fatima. This is cool.
And yeah, I'd like to follow up on that, like mentors or someone you can go to ask for feedback or questions, because there's some things in this job like you're learning, and sometimes you'll like I think the biggest shocker for me is dealing with undergraduate students, because like when you teach a big class, like you have a section of students that like they're gonna get an A in the class, and like it doesn't matter if you're teaching it, like they're gonna figure it out. Then you have students that are kind of need a little more help and they really rely on you. And then you have a section of students that they're probably going to fail the class and blame you, but they're not going to come to class or do anything. And so kind of coming to this realization that like you're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. So in probably up until this point, you've done a job where like you put a lot of work in and no one's like ever upset with you. You will put a lot of work into teaching and you will have students upset with you. And so that's kind of a weird feeling. But going to other faculty and being like, hey, like I'm struggling with this. Do you have any feedback? And sometimes like, oh, like you can make it better go doing this. Sometimes the feedback is you're doing nothing wrong. That's just some students. And so at least getting that mentorship or that second thought, like you're not going crazy, like getting that feedback that that's just a part of the job. But yeah, there's a crazy amount of administration work that you're like, why am I spending my time on this? I thought I was going to be a top researcher in this area, and then you're doing some of these silly tasks. But that's kind of just comes with the job. But yeah.
Thank you, Rika. And we've got another question from Jian. She asked regarding time management to maintain both productivity and mental and physical health. So can anybody just touch on this quickly?
What I honestly do is that I block my calendar, and then I put a specific time, because I used to, it might be like exaggerating, but it is not. I used to go to work like 6:30 or 7 a.m. and then come back around 9 p.m. the first 2 years. And still I was feeling that I'm behind. And there is a lot of imposter syndrome going on when you're a faculty, because you keep comparing with others, and the students never give you any self-confidence that you're doing a good job at teaching it specifically. And then sometimes you have to teach outside your area because of the department needs. So what I do now is that basically I have my personal time, which is until 8:30. So that would be the time to take care of yourself. Without physical and mental health, doing this job for long is very difficult. And then that's how I block my calendar for the time that works for me for writing. And then I used to prioritize the department to decide the teaching time for me. But then I do it now, like, okay, this is the time that I can teach. These are the days. And definitely you want to be very nice at the beginning, like giving them an open schedule whenever they want to set for your teaching. But again, I learned that you should have your own research, because research doesn't come like, okay, open my laptop and start research. You have to prepare, right, mentally for that. So my strategy is that I push all my teaching in 2 days or 3 days maximum, and then the other days I block my calendar for writing. And that way I can actually protect my time. And then I'm gracious for opening some time for meetings and etc. But still blocking that time has been very helpful. And putting it on my syllabus that I do not reply to any emails over the weekend. And then if you send it, like, because the students have a tendency of sending you an email that the code doesn't work at 10 p.m. when the deadline is 12, right? So I stopped doing that because that was basically the pressure on me. So if you can protect your time and show the value that this time has to you, I think that is the first boundary that you need to set. And again, it could be a very given thing, but for me, the first 2 years, I couldn't do that. So then I learned little by little, and you become much more fruitful after that. And also, when you learn the job, then it's much faster. But you can be more productive. But without having that time to yourself, you would always have that paper which is 90% complete, but that 10% takes forever to prepare it for submission or developing a new course or writing a new grant. So that's how you can actually justify that time.
Thank you for the great tips. Any other? So I also have another question, which is about like how occupational ergonomics is evolving in the field of academia. Is there any specific area of research that is dominating or yeah, gaining more attention over like next few years? I was thinking maybe like other fields, maybe using data science or AI is dominating this field, or still we can focus on like the physical side of the research. Do you have any like insight?
I think it depends on who is who is in the field. So I think the field's going to be carried by the faculty and their expertise, and some of that is dependent on like new technology and job demand. So yes, I think there's going to be more like artificial intelligence built into a lot of our models. And so there might be like some changes. There's different things in industry, but what industry does isn't always the same thing as academia. Industry moves much quicker than us, but they also send out things that are like half-baked. We wait a really long time before we're like, okay, it's good. But we also are more leading the innovation. So the innovation is probably all in the labs that you guys are working in. But yeah.
Thank you.
So I can say that from my field, which is most on the creating a smart manufacturing, we are moving toward zero defect manufacturing, for which still you need a lot of collaboration between human and automation. So the occupational ergonomics should also be directed that way. Actually, that's how my research is going. And we just had like a grant that was awarded. And what we are doing basically is we are creating a smart manufacturing in real time. And the real time refers to those occupational ergonomics adjustment. So I think that is what the can work in long term, at least for now. But artificial intelligence is definitely part of that because of the type of data that we require and how we can make the whole system work together with human, machine, and technology to create systems that are responsive and they are fast compared to the very traditional methods that we have in this field.
Thank you, Fatima. So it looks like that we are right at the end of our hour. So to respect everyone's time, we'll go ahead and wrap up. First, a huge thank you to our panelists for generously sharing their time, experience, practical tips. It was inspiring. I really enjoyed. I also want to remind everybody that the final webinar will be on Thursday, September 18th. So please don't forget to register if you haven't already. On behalf of OETG and the moderator, thank you again for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the day.